Hello and welcome to Thoughts from the Green Room, the interview series with your host, Geoff Mays. This week's studio guest is Adrian Parks.
Hello.
A little bit of background about Adrian. He is an award-winning actor. I'm just going to pretty much read right off of this thing because trying to memorize it was way too hard.
Okay.
So Adrian Parks is an award-winning actor, writer, and director. He was the recipient of a Canadian Comedy Award.
Correct, yeah.
For which short film?
It was a film called Sherlock, and we won Best Web Video that year. It was very fun. We were sitting with some of the kids in the hall that year and got to go up in a very ridiculous outfit to accept the award, and yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's still online. You can look up Sherlock, S-U-R-E, Lock, and we have over 10 million views now. So yeah.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Now, in addition to that, among many other things, a couple of highlights here on stage. You've directed a play called Stay, and you starred in Canadian Tuxedo for the Inspirato Festival. The latter, Canadian Tuxedo, went on to win an Audience Award in 2011.
Yeah, that's right.
Wonderful. And in 2018, so just last year, you played Sam Marsden in K.T. Brisky's newest play, Canticle of Light, at the Box Theatre.
At the very sweaty, hot Box Theatre.
Niagara, right?
King of Niagara, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I know exactly where that is.
Fun little space when it's not too hot.
And moving forward from that, not one, but two leading roles in feature films, Blood Slinger, and Twilight Ride, to be released in 2019.
Hopefully, yeah. It's one of those independent film things where it's like, it's coming soon, but I can't. People are always asking what's the date. I don't know. Okay, but hopefully at some point this year. 2019, yeah.
I can understand that because of the film that we take part in. Lucas Burney, who was on set here with us last week. Director of Werewolf, that stars both of us.
That's right.
So maybe 2020 for that one.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see where that goes.
Sheriff and deputy in that film, so that was a lot of fun too.
And in addition to all this other fun stuff that you do, you also host the monthly storytelling show Old Worlds at Free Times Cafe. If you have the chance to get out to that, I experienced it for the first time last week. And each week a new theme and storytelling around it.
It's actually once a month. It's
once a month.
The last Saturday of each month at Free Times. And yeah, Geoff came out for our regret-themed show and gave a really cool talk. So it's a really interesting variety of things. We have musicians and poets and comedians. And it's serious, it's funny, it's all kinds of things. So yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's a fabulous thing. If you can get out to it, it's easy access to seeing Adrian up on stage as well as a number of other artists in the city. So I'm going to grab this once again before I get rid of it because this is interesting. You suggested that there's some other possible things to touch on, and they've got my mind.
Okay.
You started in the business as a camera operator and editor for wedding videos. And how old were you?
19, I believe, when I did my first one. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I did my first day on set at like a Canadian Film Center short film, just as like a PA or something, when I was 18 or something, and then I started as a camera operator when I was 19. I think it was just like the summer after high school, and I with a bit of savings, a little bit of work that I'd done through high school and a bit of savings, I was able to get a camera with the help with my father as well. So it's good to have a supportive family. Yeah, to pay that off, I started shooting wedding videos, which is horrible. It's one of the worst jobs of all time, but it was an interesting exposure to a lot of things, to sort of the film business and like the adult work world. It's kind of a strange place to start as well. So
Now, the thing that catches me with that, you're 19. Now, most kids at 19 are like flipping burgers or maybe getting a restaurant job of some form or fashion. That's sort of the go-to.
Yeah, typical.
Hopefully you're not stuck at a Tim's in the back room baking. This doesn't sound like, based on what you said with acquiring the camera, a little bit of savings, it doesn't sound like it was something you were roped into as somebody offered you a job. You created this for yourself, correct?
Correct, yeah. I've been a film lover for most of my life, really. I would say grade 7, grade 8 was sort of when I first really got drawn into it. Star Wars, which I think you're a fan of as well, was a big introduction to sort of this world that I could escape into, and it just sort of grew from there, my obsession with film and storytelling and all of that kind of stuff. So when I was in high school, I started a film society. It was very pretentiously called the St. Michael's Society of Film Appreciation.
Wow.
That was kind of a joke. One of my friends was like, just make a really long version. It makes it seem more legit. And after school, I'd screen films like Citizen Kane or Casablanca, old sort of black and white films, and we'd like talk about it a little bit. It was, I feel like I was mostly doing it for myself. I don't know how some of the other students enjoyed it, but I have an old love of film, I'll say. Yes,
That's a powerful thing to have as an artist.
absolutely.
In our
Yeah.
line of work, and definitely doing it for yourself is, I'm learning, a vital aspect of being an artist.
Absolutely.
If you're not just doing something for fun on the side, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
And now, this is the fun part. You just said to me that the wedding videos were the worst thing that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
But you went from there to get your first TV credit as a camera operator, and I love this, on a Discovery Health documentary called Penis Dementia.
Correct. Yes.
I can't see how that is less worse than wedding videos, but you get to tell us about that.
Well, it depends how much you love filming penises, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that was worse. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. That was a strange gig for sure. I was working at a production company called Markham Street Films. They're still around. Wonderful people that work there, and I was working as just in the office at first, as sort of intern production assistant, that sort of thing. But they knew that I was trying to be a camera, just kind of like break into the business however I could, and so they were doing all these Discovery Health body part documentaries. There was one called Flatly Stacked, about flat-chested women, Stacked Like Me, about large-chested women, and I missed out on those somehow. But I got the penis dementia gig, and I did film a weekend. And my parents were ashamed of me. They're like, "This is what we helped you out buying a camera for." No, they weren't ashamed of me. But there was a weekend spent. There was an ad the production company sent out saying, "Looking for men willing to bear all and talk about their penises." There's a lot of nudists, obviously, people that had some sort of political or ideological sort of thoughts behind nudism, and so anyway, but I basically spent like a weekend filming penises, and I was the penis camera. That was my job. And then we also filmed a male genital piercing, but I got to film the face on that one, for which I am forever thankful. Yeah.
I'm personally with you there. Ouch.
Yeah,
that's all I can say.
So interesting intro to the biz, and that's a good. Both of those things showed me it's not all. It's just weird. You're gonna do a lot of weird, strange things you don't want to do, and that's a lot of the business as well.
I very much agreed. I don't have stories that go that extreme, but we learn from the expert on crazy things. You said in there it was. The choices to do it was initially, breaking into the business any way you could.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I know you first and foremost as an actor from our experience on Werewolf together.
Yeah.
That's where we had our introduction. So I view you as an actor, not as anything else. I've learned more since then, but initially you see where I'm coming from.
Yeah, for sure.
So back then, wedding videos, penis dementia, camera op roles. Did you know at that time that acting would be at the forefront?
No.
Here's the other question, I guess, that goes hand in hand with it. Is acting at the forefront for you? Do you view yourself as that first, or where's that fall in the mass expanse of everything you do?
I feel like that's a question I'm going to be asked a lot that I should get a better answer to, but I'm not sure if I know. I feel like, I really came into the business as a film lover, considering myself a storyteller. So more like the dream for most of my life was to be a writer and director. That was that was the dream. Acting, I'm a musician as well. So it's like I've been performing. I had my first band in grade 8.
Wow.
And we were called Nothing. Do you like that?
I love it.
And we had a symbol that didn't mean anything. Whoa.
It's deep, dude. It's like, whoa, so deep.
So deep. Yeah, I'm glad you don't have access to any pictures of me.
Your
when
thousands
I was
of
younger
fans for Nothing
yeah.
are now freaking out about all the hours they poured into analyzing that logo.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure, we didn't have any fans, so it's fine. No one's time was wasted. But anyway, like I've been a performer for a long time, and I don't know where that comes from, why that is. It's something that I've always been drawn to, and I felt some sort of draw towards acting, but if I was to give you an answer as to why I didn't do it earlier in my life, I'd say fear would probably be the biggest one, the biggest factor. And so I went through a lot of my life, again, doing all different kinds of things in the film business, and just, again, trying to break in, trying to be part of the community of storytellers that I wanted to be part of. And I took my first acting class probably about 10 years ago now, and it was mostly to get insight as a director, really.
That makes sense. Smart.
And just sort of like I have an idea of what happens with the camera and editing and all that kind of stuff, but I don't really know how to see inside the actor's mind, you know? And I did it. It's interesting. I would say that I didn't know that I fell in love with it, but I fell in love with the whole, it was a week, I was in Ottawa for this Summer Institute of Film and Television, which doesn't exist anymore, but I was with a great group of maybe 10 people, and it was just a really wonderful life experience to be with these people, like trying to figure out scenes, and I was like, oh, I really like this, but the F word of fear probably held me back from doing a lot about that. Immediately, in terms of like trying to pursue being an actor or whatever, I was just like, that was a really cool experience. I really liked it, but I don't know where to go from there. But I did end up doing my first play, which was Canadian Tuxedo, which was a lot of fun. And then I didn't really do anything. I didn't sort of get the headshot and the agent and the reel, or sort of know what was next. I just sort of, life continued, if you will, and I would say I really started pursuing it more seriously as I had a certain growing need to get outside of my head a little bit more and into my body. I mean, that seems a little touchy-feely weird or whatever, but I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just had this desire to sort of go back into performing in this way, and no looking back since. That's a long way of not answering your question.
I was wondering.
But yeah, I don't know if it's at it's the primary thing or the forefront. All like acting and writing, let's say, or directing, are very different things, and they sort of hit different pleasure centers in my brain, if you will, you know, and I enjoy them both for different reasons.
Absolutely. And if I'm hearing everything that you're saying there, to bring it around to a conciseness, if I may.
Please, I didn't do a very good job at that part of it.
It's my job.
Yes.
It's the idea that you've got a love for being in the industry, a love for storytelling and being an aspect of that. And somewhere along that process, you had the opportunity to check out acting from another side, check out acting for the purpose of the storytelling, for everything else you were doing, and it sort of crept up on you.
Yeah, that's about it. That was much more concise.
Wow, look at that.
See, I said I was going to have to answer this question, so I'm going to use Geoff's answer for that question next time.
And in that process of discovering, you brought up you experienced more than once, I'm sure, but in answering, you brought up twice the F word, fear.
Yeah.
A common thing for artists, for people in general.
Oh yeah.
I'd say that fear is one of the reasons why there aren't more artists in general across the planet. That fear of that step. How do you feel about fear now? You're much more established than when you were, in reference to that answer. How does fear play or not play into today's Adrian and the work you do versus the Adrian back then?
That's a good question, and another difficult one to answer. I think fear is always a factor. It's I don't think it's something that goes away. You know, like you just deal with it differently. I mean, I guess I expect to be afraid more often now, but I deal with that in a different way. Like I feel like I'm less afraid to screw up, or make a mistake, or fail. And I'm less afraid to be fearful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
And so willing to throw myself into whatever it is, a performance, a role, and know that I don't always know what I'm doing or what have you, and think there was, I forget where I got this from, but someone was talking about performing, and they said it's when you feel fear, it's better to think of fear as excitement. And that's one of the ways that it's sort of twisted in my head, where I'm like, whenever I feel sort of anxiety, or I'm feeling, it's very akin, that sort of feeling of fear and excitement are very close to each other. And so whenever I feel that, I'm just like, well, think of it as excitement. I'm of course you're afraid because you're doing something important or interesting or new, and you're going to experience something from that, and experience is good. And that's not always the way I saw those things, I guess.
That's a very good lesson, and it brings me around to a thought around fear myself, and ties it to another one of our mutual passions, which is rock climbing. I believe, I'm not positive on this, but I believe it is Alex Honnold, who's currently in the major spotlight right now, for free solo, of course. But I was reading an article, and again, fairly confident, but don't quote me on this, world. Fairly confident it was an article with Honnold in it, and he said, if I don't have some level of fear, then I'm doing something wrong. And the reference that he was making more specifically than that was the idea that a little touch of fear is what keeps you alive and true, because it stops you from being too confident and too cocky, and not thoughtful towards your actions. And when you're dealing with rock climbing, you've got to be very thoughtful to action. But the same thing for us, in reference to, you've got to be confident when you get out in front of a camera, behind a camera, any aspect of being an artist. But if you get so cocky and think that, everything you do is gold, then that's when you end up not producing anything of value.
Absolutely.
You need some fear to keep you true, to mitigate and bring you back down and go, maybe.
Yeah.
Push the boundaries with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some people that, show up on set and they're so confident the lines haven't been memorized. And that's a problem. That's too much confidence, I would say.
Exactly.
So, that's a good way. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
And it brings it back around, as I say, to touch on another passion of yours, broad-ranging, acting, writing, directing, rock climbing.
Yeah.
Storytelling in general. And that large body of things I just listed off from you, I think, culminates to the main thing that sits on my mind, which is this idea that you're a creator. If I may,
I would
give you that title.
Thank you. Yes, I will accept it.
And much of the work on there that we spoke about, much of the work that you and I have discussed over the time frame we've known each other, is generated by you yourself. You create the work for yourself, the people that you work with, versus a more traditional actor like myself. And I say traditional in the idea that I put myself out for auditions, but I don't do much creating of stuff.
Right.
So the work that I get comes from that old school casting, audition, get the part, versus you do all of that plus make your own work. In terms of creation, do you think, what role does creation play for you right now in your world? Where does the creator come from, or how does it serve you, I guess, is anything around that topic? Feel free. Go.
Go.
No pressure, just go.
To explain creation to me.
On the fifth day.
There's been a lot of resting. There's been a lot of seventh day in my creation. Well, I mean, I like to think that creation is primary. That's a very primary, central part of my life, the way I see it right now. I'm trying to put it at the forefront of everything I do, and I mean, and that can be in the acting realm as well. I mean, I think that acting is a form of creation as well, even though you're memorizing lines, and there's more to it than that, I think, than just memorizing the lines.
Just
so I mean, creating character and creating moments and all of that is a certain kind of creation, and then creating as a writer, as a storyteller, that's a different kind of thing as well. They're similar, but they're different disciplines. So I'm at a place in my life now where I've sort of done, I had my break into the business and I made some money, and I had pleasure from that, but it wasn't really doing the things that I really wanted to do. And so I'm sort of giving just the last few years particularly, I'm really kind of giving myself time to make creativity and not just doing corporate work and filming corporate things and all that, which is one of the things that I've done a lot of. Making creation really primary. So there's one of my practices recently when I'm not working, which seems to be less and less these days. But
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. But I'll try to wake up and I go to the coffee shop and I write for at least an hour. That's sort of like part of the discipline. Sometimes it's more than that. Sometimes it's less. But there's several different things that are works in progress that I'm trying to work on regularly, sort of a piece at a time. And so that's, so there's like that writing element, and then there's the developing that written element into film. Not everything I'm doing is necessarily going to be a film, but that's is one of the primary focuses that I have. So then there's that sort of creation of bringing something alive in front of a camera or on a stage or what have you. And then there's the acting side too. So again, another long-winded response. Maybe Geoff can summarize
that one
summarize
that
as well.
That one worked very well.
Okay.
Part of the reason I bring it up is there is an argument in today's economy, and I think I know the short form answer of what I'm asking from yourself.
Okay.
In this one, but I'm curious to have it proven wrong or have it proven right.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, and there's a lot of discussion around in today's Canadian economy as an artist, specifically in the acting and film television business, that if we don't create our own content, we don't have a chance of making it anywhere in this business. Is that some of your drive as a creator, or is that a secondary thing because you're already creating for the joy of it?
That it's tied in there, you know. It's one of those being Canadian does, like, it means something. I know we all don't think that it does, but it is part of your identity. And there's being the poor brother of the U.S. Beneath us. It does. I have so many different ways of answering that, I guess, but I think it is very important. I think there are so many great Canadians working in Hollywood right now as actors and writers and directors and all kinds of things. So we know that there's talented people in Canada, and yet we don't. When you work as an actor and writer, like, it's just a different world being a Canadian filmmaker and being a American Hollywood filmmaker.
Absolutely.
You know,
you can see it in the product.
Yeah,
there's something distinct about when you flip on a television. You go, just something about the image, and you're like, that's Canadian.
Yeah,
right.
That's
versus
right.
That's American. There's something we do that's a little different, and I agree with you that Canadian is a huge piece. It is our identity, right?
Yeah.
It's not the sole thing. It's a piece of us that I don't think we lay enough claim to. And in reference, discussing with you around that idea of if you don't make your own work, you don't succeed in this business, I think it's unfortunate that we have evidence of great talent that can survive in a star system, aka everybody that's Canadian that works in America. Why don't we promote that here? And that baffles me. Like, why don't we have an industry that promotes the Canadian talent doing the Canadian thing up here? Why do we have to leave the ship, jump the country?
That's part of, like, there's some sort of mystery there that is yet to be solved, I think, because, I mean, going back to what you said in terms of, like, you turn on the TV and you're like, that's a Canadian thing. We don't usually say that in a good way.
No.
That's usually, it usually means, oh, that looks Canadian. Ooh.
Yeah. Good one.
So I think we're all trying to figure out why that is, and there's, like, I love the idea of making things in Canada that look and feel as good as American products. And obviously the economy, the size of our country, those are big sort of these other factors that are involved. But we have incredible crews up here. We have people making Hollywood films in Toronto all the time.
And quality is getting better and comparable
Absolutely.
against the U.S. market.
And for me, I think one of those ways is, I think the web, seeing that we're on the web right now, we might as well talk about it. But I think that could be some sort of leveling of the playing field. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but what the web is doing for content is a growing and ongoing thing, and I think that does give an opportunity for more Canadian product and talent to emerge, I would say.
I agree with you in that very much so, that the web is an equalizer globally as well as Canadian to US market, as we were discussing. And it sounds to me, and again, I don't want to box you in, but based on what you're saying, it sounds to me like your creation is creation for yourself with a secondary achieved goal, that it creates work for you and helps push you forward in the industry, versus making it to push forward in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think there's always, when you're creating something, there's always several levels involved. Like, if you're creating just for yourself, that's fine, but that's sort of its own thing, you know? And most of us as creators, we are creating for an audience. So that's somewhere in your brain. It doesn't have to be at the forefront. I think that most, genuine creative endeavors come from some sort of, need within yourself. And that's why it's going to be true and authentic. But it's still, you have all of these, when you're thinking like, I'm writing a web series that I'm going to produce in Toronto. I know actors, I know camera people, I know, like, I could picture some of the people that are going to be in this. Like, that's going to be some sort of factor in how you're making it, and you're thinking of the platform it's going on. And this is me as the behind the camera guy, I guess. But so there's a lot of factors. So you think about the Canadian industry, or I think about the Canadian industry when I'm trying to make something that I know that I'm going to try to make myself,
Right. Right. And that's valuable. I think it serves all purposes, the self as well as promotion of your own growth within the industry as an actor, as a writer, as a director.
Yeah.
And speaking of the web, speaking of you as a creator, there's not one but two shows in development right now, correct?
There are 2 shows in development. Very, very correct. So yes, speaking of creating for the web, there's a segue.
Look at that. Well done.
Hey, maybe I'm making some things in the web I'm going to tell you about right now. So yeah, I've two of the projects I've been working on for the last few years now, I guess. There's a gangster show, which we just sort of changed the title of to gangsterish. We're still sort of we had a contest on our Facebook page to see what people liked, and gangsterish was the winning title. We'll see if that sticks with broadcasters or what have you. But it's basically a gangster parody series, and I play, depending on how this thing gets made, I play multiple roles. I basically play my whole family, but I'm sort of the dumb nephew of a mafia don, they can't get rid of him really because he's family, but he's really messing things up, and he gets paired with a really intelligent guy who's underneath him in seniority, but obviously is way more on top of things. And it comes from my love of film, my love of gangster films. And so in each episode, we're sort of parodying at least one scene from a gangster film. So we parody like the opening of The Godfather. We parody several things in Goodfellas.
I was going to say it has to be in there.
Yeah, the opening of Goodfellas. We want to do if we get it made, the famous Steadicam shot through the club and whatever. I've written what I think is a amusing take on that. So yeah, it's a bit of a bigger production, and it's taken. People ask me about it because it's been around for about a year. We have a trailer that's on the Fish Suitcase YouTube channel that has been well received. People have been supportive, but it's a bigger thing, and it's not easy to sort of get all the financing in place, and we're still trying to figure out the best way of doing that. And the way we're leaning right now is like, maybe it's not the web, maybe it is TV, or maybe it's streaming, so that's a bit of a work in progress.
Still working on that one. And moving it along. I've seen the advancing trailers over the time frame, but more prominently and a little bit more imminent is the other series. Tell us about that one.
Headshots. Yes. So if all goes according to plan, when you guys are watching this, the fundraising campaign is going to be started already and about a week underway. So it is a comedy series set in a photography studio, and basically every episode is a different character getting a headshot taken for an unusual reason. So our first season hopes to have 8 episodes, and we're hoping to. This is a more easily producible one. We need a little bit of funding to pay actors, food, some props, costumes, all that good stuff, and have some money left over to promote, because it's difficult to. You can't just like put your web series out there anymore. You need to be able to get it in front of people's eyes and sort of break into bigger audiences. So that's sort of what we're fundraising for. But it's a very, very doable project, and we've had a lot of fun. It's been done with a group of five friends. We've been a writing group for several years now, and we've all contributed to it and had made each other laugh a whole bunch. So even in the worst case scenario of this thing getting made, we've all really enjoyed writing the scripts and putting it together and poking fun at all kinds of different people, and we're really excited about it.
That sounds awesome, and I think coming back to that creation idea, that's one of the best things. If you've had fun doing it, then you're doing something right, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Of course, at the end of this video, I will have posted up in the credit scene, if you will, all of the links and information about Headshots, the fundraiser campaign, that you can click on it or copy paste it to your browser so you can help support if you have the desire to do so. And I think that brings us around to a good spot to close this up, my friend.
I think so.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Adrian Parks, the multi-talented individual. If you have a chance, there is, of course, Old World Storytelling the last Saturday of every month for an immediate hit to see his work, as well as the work of other artists that he brings in for the variety show. And as I just mentioned, take a look at the end credits for any links that will get you to some of his other work.
That's right.
Those are your thoughts from the Green Room on the interview series with your host, Geoff Mays, our special guest, Adrian Parks. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in just a few weeks.